Oh, welcome into the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. Figure that out because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. We got some good news coming in. If you're an Eagles fan, they've not made not one, but two hires that maybe give you a little semblance of positivity, a little bit of hope. Hope is something you can't find in the hockey team, but maybe a little bit of hope that things are going to be better for the football team in the fall. We're going to break down some stark contrasts between what Sean Mannion and Grizzard have done in Green Bay and Tampa, respectively. There are positive signs to look for. You want more positivity? I'll get you a little bit more positivity. 77 points combined between Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey in a very narrow, painfully narrow win over Sacramento. But then we always have to come back, don't we? We always have to come back and talk about the orange and black dumpster fire that is very clearly lit right now, on fire. And if you are here for some hockey talk, I got you some hockey talk today as well. I don't even know where to start. I know a lot of people who are here live over on YouTube especially, as well as on Facebook and X. They are here for hockey talk. And so I could do what I do. I could lean into what the live audience would like, and I'm going to bring everybody's comments up here because there have been many comments coming in already. We can either go over to the comments, and we can go into Flyers talk, or I could play the old trick of we set the table for it, and you have to suffer through the Eagles and Sixers talk first to then get to the Flyers talk. We're going to find out in a little bit. My thought here is, if I end with the Flyers talk, we're going to be ending on a negative note going into the weekend. The Flyers play Saturday, probably lose. Who the hell knows, but probably lose. And then the Flyers Carnival on Sunday. The positive news about the Flyers Carnival is they can't possibly lose, so that's good. Maybe we'll have a little bit of positivity there. But if we end with the Flyers, then we're going into the weekend with negativity, and maybe it'll be good for our soul to let those things out. But I don't know if that's how we end the show. The Eagles news is good, and we do have some analysis, so we could do that. We could also end with the Sixers. I don't want to spend half the show on the Flyers, but sometimes when we talk about the Flyers, things go a little bit long. But you know what? Based on the comments that I see right now, I think we might have to start with the Flyers, and we will get to the Eagles because I want to be very clear. I am very high on the concept of the two guys that the Eagles hired to be their offensive coordinator and their passing game coordinator. And despite the fact that I don't know jack diddly squat about either of these guys, like I have not been monitoring Sean Mannion's approach to helping with the Packers offense as the passing game coordinator. I've not been tracking that all year. I didn't monitor everything that Josh Grizzard has done down with Tampa Bay, but I do have numbers. I do have stats, at least relative to their performance, to what they helped to implement with their teams. And there is a big part of me that if I'm looking for positivity today, I can say their offenses stand in such stark contrast to what Nick Sirianni's offenses have done that it'll be abundantly clear within the first few weeks of the season if they've been given any autonomy over this offense or Sirianni is still ultimately calling the shots. So there is positivity, and I do want to get to the positivity. I do. We'll get to that later on. The Sixers game, positive. We also have to talk about Giannis, the Giannis of it all, because among the many reports that came out about Giannis being now open, maybe even willing, maybe even in love with the idea of getting the flying F out of Milwaukee, well, there was a report that came out that he's very much interested in playing with Tyrese Maxey. But then, of course, we all expect that VJ Edgecombe would have to be the return. If you know me, you know, very high on VJ Edgecombe. Do not want to trade VJ Edgecombe. And it is ridiculous to say, but like to me, it's got to be like a Jared McCain, Paul George, and picks and maybe pick swaps package. That's not going to be nearly enticing enough for Milwaukee. But like you do have to set a line in the sand. We will get to there a little bit later on as well. But we are going to start with the Flyers. We are going to start with Hockey Talk because I am absolutely beside myself. I feel like the spiraling that the Flyers have done has coincided with the spiraling I'm doing whenever I think about this team. I want to be clear. 2.5 weeks ago, before I left for Europe, the Flyers were in strong position to make the playoffs. We were having conversations on this show and on Snow the Goalie, not about if the Flyers would make the playoffs, but where they would ultimately be in the seeding, because it felt like almost a foregone conclusion that, due in large part to the otherworldly play by Dan Vladar, the Flyers were going to be a strong playoff team, not a playoff contender, not a Stanley Cup contending team. Let's be clear. Let me be clear. Not a Stanley Cup contending team, but definitely a team that wasn't going to have to scrape and claw and scratch to get that 8th seed in the conference. It felt like they could be one of the 3 teams representing the Met and not even have to worry about the wild card. Well, fast forward 2.5 weeks, they are on the outside, and it ain't even like outside looking in. It's like they are currently on the outside with like one of those old-fashioned, like little telescope things, right? That the pirates used to have, like the Calypso one. Arg, land ahoy, matey. Like one of those. Except their boat isn't even going into shore. Their boat is getting carried out. They're like Moana on a fucking raft going off to look for the Isle of Tahiti. That's where the Flyers are going. Oh, no. See, the front office who built this team, the head coach who coaches this team, they're kind of like the dad for Moana. You cannot cross. You cannot cross the reef. We must stay here. This is where our people belong. Hockey purgatory. We belong here. We cannot cross the outer rim. You cannot go past the reef. And Flyers fans collectively, right? We've all been waiting. We would like to leave hockey purgatory. The plants are dying. The coconuts are falling off the tree. There's nothing left. The ground is no longer fertile. We cannot plant seeds and expect them to grow. You want to go Nick Sirianni? Plant the flowers in the soil. None of it. It's all gone. The soil is corrupt and crap. Everything is dying around us. And many of us, for a long time, have begged, pleaded, implored with the hockey gods, with the front office, this front office, the one before it, the Chuck Fletcher-led one, the one before that with Ron Hextall. We have begged and pleaded, please stop doing patchwork moves. Please stop putting Band-Aids on a hole in the side of a dam. Somebody figure it out. There are very few ways to get elite talent. One of them is the draft. You need to draft high. Stanley Cup winning teams have high draft picks. They get the elite talent and they ride that wave and supplement and add to the team and become legitimate year-over-year cup contenders. There is a very short, easy path. It is not complicated. And through Hextall, the drafting was bad. The decision to override the scouts and not take Heiskanen. Maybe when retrospective, we'll go Makar. Heiskanen was the scouts' pick. Didn't want to do it. Nolan Patrick didn't pan out. Hextall, burn every bridge, flamed out. They bring in Chuck Fletcher. Oh, let's go with the hockey guy. Let's go with the guy whose dad was an executive. We'll go with it. It'll be great. It'll be awesome. Band-Aid over Band-Aid. And then they replaced the front office again with Danny Briere and with Keith Jones, and we gave them a chance. We gave them an open mind. We went into this plan with grace. We did. I don't know where it's gotten us, but we tried. And right now, we are in the midst of having the same conversation that we have had every year for the 8 years I have covered the team. There is little to no elite talent in the pipeline. There is little to no elite talent on the roster. The team does not have a 1C in the pipeline or on the team. It does not have a number one defenseman in the pipeline or on the team. You want to argue for Zavragin as being the one goalie, the number one goalie, the franchise guy. Okay, maybe I'll give you that. I like Zavragin. Okay, cool. Maybe you have the goalie. You hope. Don't go beyond the reef. Don't go beyond the reef. We don't go out there. We are going to continue to farm and try to cultivate these lands. No. We are Moana. We are getting on that raft. We're going to end up with that dumb chicken, Hey Hey. Hey Hey's going to be on the... I don't actually know who Hey Hey is. I don't know who Hey Hey is going to be. Insert the dweebazoid who somehow is going to go on the ride with us. Hey Hey's on the boat. We got to go find Maui, grab him by his ear, and we've got to say, you will board my boat. We got to get the fuck out of hockey purgatory and go find ourselves some fertile land. It hasn't happened yet. We are waiting. We continue to wait. It's bad. I don't have a good way to spin this. You want positivity. I'll give you positivity. The positivity is we are getting closer and closer to the end of the regular season. That's the positivity. This team has lost 10 of 12 games. This team, after each and every loss, looks more and more defeated, sounds more and more defeated, looks like a team that is absolutely devoid of answers to any major question. They got nothing left. And they've tried, some of these guys, post-game, they've tried to keep their heads up. They've tried to be positive. And then I'm watching Travis Konechny last night. Travis Konechny was as dejected as I've ever seen him. And in fairness, Travis Konechny's gone through a lot of bad seasons of Flyers hockey, a lot of years missing the playoffs. He looked as absolutely dejected and upset as I think I've ever seen him in a post-game press conference, in a post-game scrum. It has been horrible. And you know what? We're going to go out to Travis Konechny really quick because I'll tell you what, he looked like a guy who is done. Maybe not done with this fan base, not necessarily done with the team, but is just sick of the losing. Let's go out to Travis Konechny really quick. I want you to hear from Travis Konechny. What did he have to say? Flyers got boat raced, right? Absolutely decimated, destroyed. Sam Harrison gave up at least 2 goals, 5-hole that, there was no excuse to give up. They never really had a chance. Then he got hurt, and they had to put Vladar in. Okay, we're going to have to Konechny. Let's go hear from Travis Konechny. What's up, fella?
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating because you're just trying to... I've been through this so many times. I'm tired of missing the playoffs. That's kind of all I look at right now. I just want to get points for the team, and we need to figure something out.
Is this?
I mean, ain't that the truth? Ain't that the story of every freaking year? I mean, I swear it happens every year. I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of missing the playoffs. Now, he didn't just tell you outright, we aren't making the playoffs. But he sure as shit sounds like a guy who understands, fundamentally, it is going to take divine intervention for this team to make the playoffs. They're done. In order for them to make the playoffs, let me just check the most recent standings before I, sound like a total buffoon. But I'm mostly sure I'm right here. They do have some games in hand. We've gone over this a few times. They may have games in hand, but they are lagging considerably behind. So the other day, Monday, the Flyers had the chance to go level on points with the Islanders and actually own that third playoff spot from the Met because of the points percentage, right? In the midst of this absolute debacle and this falling apart and this disastrous stretch they've been on, they are now 8 points behind the Islanders. They have 1 game in hand, so it's not even like they've got 3 games in hand to make up. 1 game in hand on the Islanders, they are 8 points back. And if you want to look for positivity and say, well, at least there's a wild card. Yeah, at least there's a wild card. Too bad they're 10 points behind the Canadiens and the Bruins, both of whom have 67 points. You have a game in hand on Montreal. You have 2 games in hand on Boston. You're 10 points behind. I mean, am I nuts? They're 2-7-1 in their last 10 games. They have lost 10 of 12. Is there any reason to believe that the Flyers are going to pull the nose up? The answer is no. There is no reason to believe they're going to pull the nose up. Is there any elite talent within this organization that is going to be able to come up here and stop the bleeding and help? No. No, there's not. Porter Martone's playing in college. He's going to go finish out the season with Michigan State. And if things go the way that they could go for Michigan State, he'd maybe be eligible to play the last 2 games of the season. Let's hope nobody made him or his agent a promise that he's going to be on the team no matter what at the end of the year. It would be a shame if something like that happened. So he probably won't play for the Flyers this year. There was a hope that he would make the playoff roster and get some good experience. Looks like that ship has sailed. It's a shame the Flyers, in the midst of a rebuild, didn't have like high draft picks. Oh wait, that's right, they did. They had Matvei Michkov. Well, he's on the team, but he's still playing left wing, and he's still not able to set up in that right circle where he scored many goals from a season ago. Okay, so we're not doing that. We're not putting him necessarily in the most advantageous position for him to be dynamic offensively. Okay. Jetlachenko. There's a guy. How about Jetlachenko? He could come up. The Flyers need a center. I keep being told the Flyers need a center, right? Flyers could desperately use a center. They played Sean Couturier on the fourth line as a center. They actually experimented with Trevor Zegras as a center. Imagine that. Crazy. Absolute lunacy. That it took until the 53rd game of the season for us to get like a legitimate look at Trevor Zegras as a center. It's a shame that they didn't have 52 games before that to get a longer look at him as a center. It's a shame they didn't have 52 games before last night to split up him and Christian Dvorak before deciding to give Dvorak a 5-year contract. It's a shame they didn't have 52 games. Oh, they did. They did. And they chose not to split those two up. They chose not to play Zegras at center for an extended look, or to split those two up to see who's elevating who. What the likelihood of either or both of those players would have a finding success. Okay, cool. So they didn't do that. Okay, got it. Lachenko, though. They could use the center. They've got Noah Cates. They've got Sean Couturier. They've got Christian Dvorak, who in theory, like in most seasons, would be quite the enticing guy to offer up at the trade deadline, but you just signed him to 5 years. I mean, I guess in theory you could try to offload that, but now it's a 5-year contract. I don't know how many teams would give him 5 years, but maybe there are some. Okay. And now you got Trevor Zegras playing center, even though the coach has been allergic to that idea all year. Well, you have this first-round pick, Jetlachenko. Why not bring him up? He's around a point-per-game player in junior. Why isn't he coming up? Because he's not ready. Oh, but he's 19. Uh-huh. Oh, well, they were playing the long game. He was like a year younger than everybody else in his draft class. They were getting ahead of it. He would have been a top 11 pick the next year. Sure, yeah. Okay, cool, yeah. So you have a center in the pipeline, but right now he projects to be a bottom 6 forward. Unless you are really high on copium and you want to believe that he somehow is going to go from being a maybe point per game guy in junior who's reticent to shoot the puck, and now he's going to become a 1C. Do we see that? I don't see that. Does he have strong playmaking ability? Is he fast? Is he strong? Does he have good vision? He does. Could he maybe be a 2C? If everything breaks his way? Maybe. Is it more likely that he's a faster Scott Lawton? I would say that the likelihood of that feels a little bit higher. Yeah. So, okay, you have that. So that doesn't work. Okay, cool. Awesome. No one is exempt from blame. No one is exempt from facing scrutiny and criticism for what's going on with this team. I told you guys in the offseason, Rick Tocchet has a decent track record as a head coach. Wasn't really an inspiring hire if that was the way that they went. I said, you're going into year 3 of a rebuild. I'd be fine with you going with a guy like Franheiser. Or even when they were interviewing McKee. I was like, all right, like those are interesting, somewhat out-of-the-box hires. Those are coaches that could theoretically tailor a system to get the best out of their players and grow with the team and not set the expectations too high and maybe not raise the ceiling that much, maybe not raise the floor that much. They would adapt to what they had in front of them. But instead, you ended up with Rick Tocchet as a head coach. And I don't think I've ever seen a fan base turn against a head coach in Philadelphia, even with the Flyers, or maybe across all of the Philly teams. I don't know if I've ever seen a fan base turn against a coach as quickly as this fan base turned against Rick Tocchet. Is it fair? Is it unfair? I don't know. Am I inspired watching Tocchet hockey? No. Am I inspired watching the way that Matvei Michkov is playing this year? No. Do I feel like somebody has lost the plot? I do. See, here's the thing. When you listen to national people talk about the Flyers, The pretty much number one thing that anybody with half a brain says is the Flyers have roughly 30 games to try to get Matvei Michkov back on track, because that is ultimately what's most important for their franchise long term. Why is that? Because he is the only guy right now on the active roster who theoretically has some kind of elite talent potential. That's it. You want to make a case for Porter Martone? He's playing in college. He's not on the active roster. Michkov's it. And yet, is he being put in an advantageous position for him to be as dominant and potentially as effective as he could possibly be right now? No. Does it feel like they're trying to square peg, round hole Michkov from being a Kucherov type or being a guy who's got creativity, is maybe a little bit more of an East-West player, and they're trying to shove him into a North-South system? It does feel like that. It's felt like it all year. We're 52 games in, 53 games in, 50 whatever games in. It's 53. Cool. Great. I'm thinking about the front office now. I'm thinking about draft selections. I'm thinking about what is supposed to give this fan base hope. What is supposed to give this fan base the idea that things are going to go the right way? They just released a letter. We talked about this on Snow the Goalie on Wednesday. They put out a letter saying that because of all the contributions of the young guys on the team and the veterans and the culture that's been instilled by Briere, Jones, and Tocchet, that they are pushing toward, they are in contention for a playoff spot. That was an unfortunately timed letter. You drop that after the Ducks game, you got a lot of people renewing their season tickets. You drop that right after the Colorado game, you probably have a good number of people re-upping. You drop that a day or so after you get boat raced by the Islanders at home 4-0. It ain't going to help. It ain't going to help. And now, after you got absolutely lambasted by the Bruins, that ain't going to help either. So my question, and this will be a question, I mean, listen, as of right now, we have a lineup for Snow the Goalie at the Carnival. We do. If somebody from the front office comes on the show, I'm going to ask some questions. Some might argue that it's not the forum. But you know what? Like, I don't need to ask, what are you guys seeing from Carson Bjarnason in the minors? Carson Bjarnason's having a nice season. Good for him. The fans want to know why they should believe. The fans want to know why they should continue to spend their money to come out to games this season when it looks like this team is once again heading toward an early exit. A regular season that will end with no postseason contention. I have questions. I would certainly like to ask some questions. We'll see if I have the opportunity to do that on Sunday. We shall see. But this is about as bad as it gets, because I've been willing to give grace. I have. I've been willing to. And I still, despite the fact that there are people now calling for the head of Keith Jones and Danny Briere and Rick Tocchet, I still think that Danny Briere ultimately knows exactly how this game needs to be played out. I do truly fundamentally believe that Danny Briere knows how to build a hockey team. I do. I question whether or not he's being allowed to build that hockey team the way that he wants to build it. I don't think Danny's a stupid guy. I don't think that Danny's sitting around twiddling his thumbs, trying to play the patchwork game that his predecessor, Chuck Fletcher, did. I do actively wonder if Rick Tocchet was the true number one candidate that Danny Briere wanted to hire. I'm not saying that because I've had a conversation with Danny and he said, oh, no, that was my call. No. I just wonder, because when candidates were coming up, there were certainly lines drawn between Keith Jones and Rick Tocchet, but not as much with Danny Briere and Rick Tocchet. So who made the hire? Was the hire done by the GM? Was it done by the president? Was it a collaborative effort? I wonder. Here's what I could tell you. The Flyers have to course correct somehow, right? They do. They have to course correct. I don't know who needs to do that course correcting. I don't know how it needs to be done. Listen, a lot of people would go out of their way to say, Rick Tocchet, you just replace him. Spectacor's not going to do that. Spectacor is not going to go pay for another coach to not coach the team anymore. You are stuck with Rick Tocchet, whether you like it or not. Now, my question is more, who are you willing to move at the deadline? Because if this team is dead in the water, and make no mistake about it, this team is DED dead. They are dead in the water. There is no hope of resuscitation. I watched season 1 of The Pit. You know what I learned from The Pit? All those miracles that you see on all of the other emergency room shows, they don't happen a lot, right? I am actively waiting for Dr. Robbie to come bursting through the doors and say, we need to stop resuscitation efforts on the Flyers this season. I need Dr. Robbie to pop in. Can we get Dr. Robbie in? Can he go sit down with the front office and say, guys, you tried. You did your best. It ain't working. We got to stop. Somebody's got to stop. Here's my question. Who can you move? Because you could maybe go out of your way and say, all right, can we move Dvorak, who was just re-signed? And I think technically they could. Could be wrong. I think they can still trade Dvorak because next year is when the no movement clause kicks in. Because again, you sign a contract with the Flyers, you get a new movement clause. Could they now pivot and say, you know what? If Dvorak can get us a first-round pick, we're going to move off the guy that we just guaranteed a 5-year contract to. It would be a very bad look for the organization. It would be a horrific look for this front office. It would erode a lot of trust with agents and players. Oh, if I sign with Philadelphia, even if they give me a no movement clause, they could try to offload me before that kicks in. I don't know if that would be a great game to play. The only way that works out is if you move Dvorak to a legitimate cup contender. And then it's like, wow, they did him a solid. They thought that they were going to make the playoffs. When it was clear they didn't, they moved him to a really good team. Here's the problem, though. If you do that, and it is for a first-round pick, it's a late first. How valuable is that? Who knows? I don't know. Probably not that valuable. It's not going to help you move from like 14 up to 3. Would Travis Konechny waive his no movement? I showed you before. Konechny sounds like a guy who on a professional level is sick and tired of missing the playoffs. I think Konechny is a good player. I have said a bunch of times, I don't think Konechny is your number 1 guy or your number 2 guy on a legitimate cup-winning team. I think he could be a valuable contributor to a cup-contending team in a different role. Would he be willing to uproot himself and his family and go elsewhere? Maybe. I don't know. Would the Flyers want to move off him? Something tells me no. A big part of me says absolutely not, because the Flyers would then make the argument, if you trade Travis Konechny, you have to somehow get somebody who can be Travis Konechny. Unless, hold on a second, you can't go beyond the reef. Can't go beyond the reef and think about, if we offload his like 80-ish point season and we don't have anybody there, what are we going to? We'll go beyond. Where are we going to go? Maybe into the draft. Maybe if you, class, repeat after me, lower the ceiling, lower the floor, then maybe you will put yourself within some form of striking distance of getting a kiss, a touch of lottery luck like the Islanders did last year. And maybe the hockey gods, for one time, just one time, will smile upon you and you will leapfrog 6 or 7 or 10 other teams, 9 teams. And you'll get that number 1 pick, or you'll get that number 2 pick, and you'll get somebody who could maybe be a foundational piece to this team. Or you could hang on to everybody. You could say, you know what? Even if we wanted to move Travis, the offer's not that strong. Oh, we could move Christian Dvorak, but the offer's not that strong. Oh, we could move Rasmus Ristolainen, but we think that if he plays another season, next year, Risto goes in, playoff Risto goes out there and busts his ass the first half of the season, we'll get a first-round pick for him next year. Or you could live in reality where Rasmus Ristolainen can't stay healthy, and you say, yeah, you know what? It's not even about saving the money. It's just about lower the ceiling, lower the floor. We're kind of in that position. Where do the Flyers need to go? Because right now, that raft, getting close to the edge, getting close to the reef, right? There is a non-zero chance that the Flyers don't make any moves at the deadline. Buying would be insane. Selling seems unlikely. they're going to be like when you get to the end and then the giant wave comes up, picks up Moana and the raft, and drops her back on the shore. That's where it feels like this season is heading. It does. We need Maui. Who's going to be Maui? Who's Hockey Maui that's going to help us? Can Danny Briere tap into the Flyers of yesteryear? Like, is there like the GM spirit? I know he's alive, but the GM spirit of Bob Clark, is he in there? Can we figure out a way to get over the reef, get out to the open waters, and try to get this team on a path, on a course somewhere, to find fertile land and to maybe have a better hockey team? Can we try it? Please, can we try it? I beg. I plead. Unfortunately, this is where my grace period ends for the front office, the coaching staff, for all of it, right? It does. I have been more than willing to give some grace, to extend some grace. I was willing to give grace when it came to Cutter Gauthier, who's got 20-plus goals in Anaheim right now. I was willing to show some grace. Hey, he didn't want to talk to you guys. He didn't want to talk to Leclaire or Sharp, who flew halfway around the world to go meet with them. He must be an asshole. Need good culture. All right. Jamie Drysdale's had an okay year, so we're not gonna poo-poo Jamie Drysdale. But all right. Good culture addition. Good player coming back. Not an elite player, but good player coming back. Okay. Yeah. You want to go on a fake playoff run with Torts? I said it was stupid at the time. I actively questioned how and why anyone would facilitate anything that would make it look like the guys deserve the opportunity to go on a playoff run. And that ultimately really did screw them. I was still willing to extend some grace. You had last year. I said, Torts coming back is a mistake. Surprise, surprise. You didn't even finish the season with Torts. Okay. Was willing to extend some grace here again. Danny Briere inherited John Tortorella. Go out and make that hire. Again, was it Danny's hire? Was it Jonesy's hire? Was it the collective's hire? Didn't inspire a lot of confidence. Tocchet postgame sounds like he is almost shocked by the level of apathy. Tocchet said a few days ago that the guys in the locker room like each other, but they're not really willing to push each other. I mean, I hate to make it sound like it's, the Bachelor or the Bachelorette.
I need somebody who's going to really push me.
But these guys won't push each other in the locker room? You've lost 10 of 12. Whose feelings are you worried about hurting? Who? You want to talk about a miscalculation? You've had 53 games now. 53 games, multiple months of the season to figure out your backup goalie ain't good enough. You were somehow riding the all-time best career year of a career backup in Dan Vladar, playing as a number one goalie, maybe a top 10 goalie in the league. You were riding that one out. The backup goalie was not good enough. They haven't replaced him yet. They've yet to make a move. And I'm not even sure that there's a move to make. And by the way, I'm not advocating for it because I think trading any kind of assets at this point for a backup goalie is insane. You got to roll with what you got. But Sam Harrison isn't good enough. What are we doing? Okay. I'm looking for positives. I am. There's a possibility that Matvei Michkov is going to have a good 3-game stretch here before the Olympic break. He's going to go. He's going to work really hard and all this stuff that some media people and some organization people have been kind of positing this whole time. Oh, Michkov, he'll spend those few weeks and he'll get up to speed with everybody else and his conditioning will catch up and he'll look so great after the Olympics. I'll hold out hope that it happens. I'll hold out hope that Denver Barkey continues to play the way that he has for the majority of his time with the Flyers this season, where he busts his ass, he works his ass off, he outplays, out-efforts, out-competes many of the guys on this team, including some of the higher-paid players on this team. I will hold out that hope for Denver Barkey. I will hope that somehow Noah Cates and Bobby Brink are able to figure something out together and stop looking so lost without Tyson Forster. I will continue to hope that there is a team out there that makes an attractive enough offer for Owen Tippett that the Flyers can't say no. I will continue to hope that Sanheim gets to cut back his minutes a little bit because he's being overplayed right now, and that Jamie Drysdale will maybe find some kind of touch and become helpful with the man advantage. I will hope. I will hope that Emil Andre, who looked so good early in the season after initially not making the roster, will bounce back. I will hope that Dan Vladar continues to play at an otherworldly level. But Red, Shawshank Redemption, Morgan Freeman. He had a line about hope. I don't remember it exactly. But it was, hope is a dangerous thing. Hope is dangerous. It can be. I'll hope for all these things. I don't know how many of them will happen. I will hope that if a great offer is made for Travis Konechny, that for the human being Travis Konechny, for the hockey player Travis Konechny, he's able to go to a legitimate cup contender and he can go experience winning. I will. I actually do hope at this point that if Konechny is dealt, he goes to a contender and he finds a way to win and he gets to actually enjoy something because he has had a largely unsuccessful tenure with the Flyers from a productivity standpoint of making the playoffs. I will hope for the guy on a human level. He gets to experience winning. That's about it. What else do we have to hope for? Porter Martone tears up the NCAA, leads Michigan State to a national championship, and he comes into camp next year and he just kicks ass and looks like a bona fide stud to start the year next year. We'll hope for that. Maybe we'll hope that Alex Bump makes himself undeniable and gets a call up here, and Bump ends up at the NHL level and he starts tearing it up, and then you start feeling good about things for next year. I guess we can hope that Oliver Bonk is going to somehow be healthy and have a really successful close to the season with the Phantoms, and that he'll maybe make a run for the big team next year. But here's the problem. This is the same frustration and argument we have been making year after year after year about the top 2, 3, 4 Flyers prospects. And very few of them have felt like there is a very clear A to B linear line going from where they're at now to making the NHL roster. Michkov had a clear linear line. Guess what? He's on the NHL roster. Porter Martone has a very clear line. The idea here is that he should have a pretty clear path to making the team. The rest of the prospects in the system, your guess is as good as mine. Now, I know that there are a lot of people that have been commenting, and the comments have been going this entire show, and I don't know how the hell I'm supposed to get to all of them, or many of them, or any of them, but I did see a super chat, so I've got to go to the super chat. Nabil Raymond, 22, up in Canada. Thank you for your super chat with your Canadian currency. Says when BD or Jones, so I think it's Danny Briere. We just went reverse. When Briere or Jones get interviewed by y'all again, can you please bring up how the players have dictated this rebuild still needs more time? Yes, I have a number of questions in my head that I have for these guys. I would like to, I'll be respectful. The thing is that you read people on Twitter that like to lob grenades, and they're like, you got to ask why they're so shitty at their job. You don't do that because you'll never get a good answer. But I do have questions, whether it's roster construction, whether it's did they over-evaluate some of their players? Did this really come down to Dan Vladar playing otherworldly hockey? I think very clearly that's a big part of it. See, here's the other piece, okay? I'll try to get some more comments, then we'll do Sixers and Flyers, or Sixers and Eagles. Snow the goalie the other night. Anthony made this point about Tyson Forster, and I always use the term cascading effect. You can use domino effect, whatever you want to call it. There is this issue that happens. You lose a player, and then it affects your lineup all over the place, and sometimes it does irreparable harm, right? Tyson Forster was on pace for a 40-goal season. Tyson Forster looked like one of the most promising players in this organization. Losing Tyson Forster, given where he was drafted and what the realistic expectations were coming into the season, losing Tyson Forster should not have cratered an entire line. It should not have sent Noah Cates and Bobby Brink walking around like a child who got separated from their parent in a department store. And yet that's largely what we've seen. There have been moments where Cates and Brink have looked a little bit better, but losing Forster shouldn't have done that. It shouldn't have. Misfiring, in theory, on the pick of Jetlachenko should not have caused the cascading effect of, wow, we don't have any centers here. I still do not understand how this team took this long to give Zegras a look at center. I'm not even saying that Zegras is a great center. I'm not even saying that Zegras long-term is going to be a center. But the fact that you went 50-plus games without giving that a legitimate look and splitting up him and Dvorak is insane. The fact that you didn't split those two up before giving a 5-year contract with a no-movement clause to Christian Dvorak is lunacy. Lunacy. Trying to look for positives. I don't know how to get there. I don't. I really don't. All right, I'm going to try to fly through some comments. Then we'll get to the Sixers and to the Eagles. Okay. I saw this earlier. Chris Freed says, rest in peace to Catherine O'Hara. The mom from Home Alone passed away. We send our best to her family. That is very sad. I think she was 71. Icon for Christmas movies. Let's see. The OGJH says, I need to threaten to not watch the Flyers again. That's what happened before they slapped Colorado. All right, so JH, just tell the Flyers you're never going to watch them again, and maybe they'll do it. Maybe they'll get it together. I don't know. I'm just going to put this one on the screen. Flyers Purgatory. It says Flyers Twitter going through it. Ant not doing well. Ant put a line in his story that I don't understand. He put in a thing about there's this, vocal group of people on Twitter who's going to say, I told you so. This isn't complicated. If you've been living in my realm here for the past 8 years, you'll know the methodology, the thought process, the belief has always been you've got to pick high. Bundy said it on Snow the Goalie, I don't know how many times. Teams that ultimately win the Stanley Cup have a number one pick on their team. This isn't complicated. You do not draft at 14 or 10 or 17 and put together a legitimate Stanley Cup winning lineup. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And for whatever reason, that's where the Flyers have been for a decade. It doesn't matter who's in charge. They still somehow end up picking, for the most part, in that range, and it doesn't work. I'll also point out, though, the Michkov year. Michkov fell to them because of geopolitical issues and him being under contract with the KHL and apparently not taking a meeting with the Coyotes. But, you were high enough in that draft to be able to get a guy who could maybe be a stud. You think that they would have learned a lesson, and instead they got Jetlachenko. You ended up in a spot where you could get a Porter Martone. We hope Porter Martone works out. I want to believe that Jack Nesbitt is going to be a good player. I have no idea if he will be. I will be a big believer because they need a center desperately to develop. Okay. Flyers Purgatory, based on the Konechny quote earlier, said he sounded like a guy who was ready to waive the no movement clause. Maybe. Amadeo says 3 subs away from 1,900 over on YouTube. Hey, if you're watching the show, or if you listen to the show after the fact in the podcast feed, and you haven't yet subscribed to the Russ Joy Show on YouTube, can you please help a guy out? I'd like to get to 1,900. I actually said I'd like to get 2,000. 1,900's nice. 2,000 sounds like a pretty successful channel. 1,900 doesn't sound bad. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate all 1,897 of you. You're wonderful people. Some of the best in the world. Getting to 2,000 would be cool. Let's see. Flyers Purgatory also says, I know I didn't want to extend him, but I actually feel bad for a guy trying the best he can. This is about Konechny. I'll say this. The other night, Konechny scored a hat trick on one leg. Took a shot to the leg. Was not skating around nearly as well as he normally does. He's been busting his ass. I've been critical. This is the tough thing. Anytime I have ever interacted with Travis Konechny, it has been positive. It was years ago. I mean, I have not been in the locker room in a good long while. He seems like a good dude. He's got a young family. I root for his success. I hope he lands with a team where he gets to actually experience success. But I don't think it's going to happen here. I really don't. I think even by the time this team is somehow ready and able to flip the switch, whenever the hell that is, because it feels like we're punting it every year, I don't see it. I don't. Let's see. We got Z2 Bro here. Says, oh yes, hello. And also says, lower the ceiling, lower the floor, sell baby sell. OGJH says, can we talk about the Flyers season ticket holder price increase? Minus 38% that they did without announcing anything, hoping that we wouldn't notice when we looked at our invoice in February. So I was told by somebody that there was an increase, but it was like a minimal increase. It was like $100 or something for the season. I didn't think anything of it. 38% increase for season tickets seems ludicrous. Ludicrous, I tell you. Reach out to me, JH. I would like to have a conversation about it because I think that's crazy. Philly fan says, brick by brick, shit by shit. Yeah, it's not great. K-Dub says, ho-hum, Flyers blow again. Fawcett says, Flyers are who we thought they were. Dylan says, please be the voice of the people for this trash hockey team. You're one of the few people who keep it real with the direction of the team. I always tell you on this show, I will not lie to you. I will tell you exactly how I feel. If it means that I'm going to get an angry phone call at some point or an angry email or I'm going to have to talk to somebody at the arena, it's fine. I'm not going to come on this show or on Snow the Goalie and lie to you. I'm not going to tell you that it's raining while pissing on your head. First of all, I think that's disgusting. I just thinking, I'm not R. Kelly. I think that the entire concept is kind of gross. But I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel about the team and the direction and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Let's see. Nick Abe says, do you think McDavid hits 100 points before break? He needs 6 more in 3 games. It would be awesome. I actually think that would be really cool if he did. I don't want to jump over because there's some... All right. Jamie Rollo asks, so are we at the point where we need to reevaluate the team of Danny Briere and Keith Jones? Should they be on the hot seat yet? I don't know how you could change the front office at this point. I really don't. I said this on, I think, Monday's show. Maybe it was last week. I would consider bringing in somebody else who has experience building a cup contending team and adding them as an advisor or splitting up the president of hockey ops role. Let Jonesy be the forward-facing guy. Let this other person come in and have Briere kind of sit under that learning tree. Like, I don't know. But they're not going to make any changes. I don't know what changes they could make. Zitubro says, I think the seat is warm in a sense. Danny has to do something. I don't think they can do anything. I don't. And I don't know what that would even look like. I don't see them making a trade. I think it would be organizational malpractice to make a change. Raymond Supper says it's going to take at least 96 points to make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. Flyers have no chance of winning enough games on the schedule to get there. Yeah, I mean, again, they're at 57 points. So if that math ends up being correct, and they've got to get to 96, they'll have to get, 39 more points? 39 more points. 39. In 29 games? Yeah. 39 points in 29 games. I don't like those chances. I really don't. JMJR13 says, I'm so over the same BS by this organization trying to take the fast way around a rebuild, leading to the same mediocre results and the fact that there are still shills and people defending the BS. Well, I get it. Tony Lewis says, I just figured out how to get the Russ Joy Show in my car on my screen. Please don't drive around with my face in your car. You'll crash. We don't need that. Don't do that. Please. Don't drive with my face on the screen. Maybe? I don't know. Okay. Let's see. Robert Holston says, Flyers will get another top 10 pick, go best available player again, and draft another right wing that plays the right way. Fans will drool all over him and management will pat themselves on the back. I don't think that. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do, but I can't imagine that's going to happen. K-Dub says, Flyers may never get out of hockey purgatory with the ownership and country club front office year after year, decade after decade. Should I tell you who I saw in the building the other day? Do you want to know? Paul Holmgren. I saw Paul Holmgren the other night. Does that inspire confidence? I don't know. It's not like I'm telling you he should stay out of the building. It's interesting, you know. Let's see. Philly fan really taking it back. We picked Isaac Ratcliffe over Jason Robertson. All right, let's not talk about that, okay? We could go back and do revisionist history, and you'll want to jump. Okay, don't do that. Don't do that. All right, let's see. Carl Bradley says, in fairness, they are proving you don't need to tank. You might finish dead last anyway. Oh, The intentional tank. Well, remember, when Fletcher was in charge, I used to say it was the unintentional tank. He kept trying to paper over things, and it didn't work out, and it was always dog shit, and the results were bad, and despite the fact that he was trying to make them a playoff team, they weren't a playoff team. Nicholas says, didn't expect a Moana Flyers mashup to be one of the highlights of my Friday. You're welcome. Danny Briere! No? Okay. Jamie says there's no cap relief in buying out Coots due to the structure of his contract. I've seen a lot of people also saying, by the way, oh, trade Sean Couturier. Who's taking Sean Couturier? Who's taking on that contract? They all see the same thing that you see. I like Sean Couturier. Again, there's another guy on a human level that I'd like. I think he's a good dude. But it ain't working. Let's see. Nick Abe asks, are you ready for Danny to get Panarin? He's not getting Panarin. I saw that rumor going around. To me, there's no chance, right? I don't know how much Panarin's going to cost, but I don't see a scenario where he ends up here. I think that would be insane. DS7913 says Luchenko will be Coots 2.0. Defensively sound, has a good year, gets paid, and then boom, vanish. You can't say that about Couturier. Didn't vanish because he got paid. He vanished because he had 2 back surgeries. You got to be a little bit more fair. At least there. AJ goes, sir, a letter has just hit the franchise. We leaning in and talking to George W. Bush. We whispering sweet nothings into his ear. Let's see. Jim Cochran says, just got here. Forgive me if this was already addressed, but what did everyone expect with the Flyers? They don't have the talent. Is Tocchet some sort of wizard? He's not a wizard, Harry. No, he's definitely not a wizard. I don't get wizard vibes from Tocchet. I could be wrong, though. Philly sports expert says, I love you, Russ. Thank you, Philly sports experts. I think that's just swell, and I appreciate it. I don't know what this is supposed to be. WAJ says, oh no, we might not be able to sign a 1C in free agency. Yeah, I mean, I think they very clearly were hoping to get a meeting with a Kaprizov who plays wing or a McDavid who plays center, and they're both gone, so I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Let's see. I think I want to move on and off of the Flyers because it's just not great. It's just not great. There's a really unhinged comment that I'm not going to pull up here. I don't know how we got there. Pretty wild. Okay. Yeah, I think JMJR says, thank you for speaking on behalf of this side of the fan base. Can we get this portion of the show clipped and mass send to the front office? Oh, I'm sure they know how I feel. I'm pretty sure. Kay Goodman says, Ant is just struggling that he bet on the wrong horse. Well, he once tried to tell me that Chuck Fletcher was a good GM, and that didn't work. This is the problem, though. I am very confident Briere could build a good team, and he knows how to build a team. I just don't know if he's being allowed to do it. Okay. PatX3947 says, enough with the Disney references. Just talk to us like we're not fucking children. I hope you're not. I hope you're not. That would be... You should be arrested for that. All right. Let's see. Rob South says, I feel like we're at a point where it's real close to tearing it down. I don't see that. I truly don't. I don't think that's the case at all. I don't know how you could possibly look at this team and look at where this team was a few years ago and look at it now and say, all right, after we've told the fans that we're rebuilding, now we're going to tear it down even further. If they weren't willing to tear this down by like trading Konechny before giving him that extension or trading Tippett before they gave him that extension, they ain't tearing this whole thing down. I don't know how they're going to get there. I don't see it. Okay. Let's move off the Flyers. Respectfully to everybody out there, I know that many of you were here for the Flyers talk. I don't have it in me. And I was going to even play a Sean Couturier clip from postgame, and I think it's too sad to play as well. So we're not even going to go there. I'm going to take you to the Sixers real quick, and we're going to finish with the Eagles. There was a report that came out on Thursday, among many reports, okay? I don't want this to sound like it was the only report, because it certainly was not, okay? But there was a report that came out on Thursday, if you're a Sixers fan, that Giannis Antetokounmpo might actually be interested in playing for your team, your town, your Philadelphia 76ers. So Mark Stein and Jake Fisher put out a report that Giannis reportedly has the Sixers on his radar and likes Tyrese Maxey, quote, League sources say Philadelphia, furthermore, has not contacted Milwaukee about a possible trade in the wake of a better-than-expected first half. But the Stein line has learned that the prospect of teaming up with Tyrese Maxey, who, like Giannis, works with prominent NBA trainer Drew Hanlon, does have the 76ers on Antetokounmpo's radar. Now, I said on this show the other day, I don't see a scenario where the Sixers make a trade. I don't. I think Ford is right here. Giannis isn't coming here. I also agree with Nick Abe, who says VJ is untouchable. I don't see it happening. McCain, PG, picks, pick swaps. Go with God. Have at it. That will not be a good enough package to get Giannis here. I do not see it. This idea of trading Embiid for Giannis is a pipe dream. No chance that happens. I think that if the Sixers really wanted to go out and get VJ or wanted to go out and get Giannis, it is going to cost them VJ Edgecombe. And you could have this conversation, right? Last year before he got hurt, no one would have thought about trading Jared McCain. Then he got hurt with the knee, then he got hurt with the thumb preseason, and he's had like a little bit of a better stretch recently. It doesn't look like the same guy. Is there a chance that VJ Edgecombe is as valuable as he'll ever be? Is there a possibility that he could potentially fall off in a massive way? Yeah, I mean, in theory, it's not a 0% chance that he could fall off. But I would like to bank on the backcourt of VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey together. I'm going to go out to Kyle Neubeck, who kind of refuted this idea that they would be willing to trade VJ Edgecombe. Says, spoke to a league source this morning who completely shot down the idea that the Sixers would trade VJ Edgecombe in any move, including in speculative deals people are talking about for Giannis. Should go without saying, but he's a part of the foundation in Philly. And see, that to me is the most critical piece to all of this, right? This to me is the thing that you cannot gloss over. This organization, thankfully, understands how important VJ Edgecombe is to the future. He is your only bridge, along with Tyrese Maxey, to getting you from what could be the final years of Joel Embiid as a productive human being in the NBA and whatever Paul George has left, to a team that could theoretically contend with an elite backcourt a few years from now. You don't move off of either of those guys. If the Bucks come around, and if the Bucks are potentially interested in something else down the line, and they're willing to take on a McCain and PG and picks, well, then you make it happen. I do not see a scenario where Milwaukee even entertains it. So we will assume that both VJ Edgecombe, Tyrese Maxey are here long-term. No chance either of them are moved. Giannis, it will be swell. Here's the other thing about Giannis. In the midst of this report coming out about him being interested in playing with Maxey, there were other multiple reports that came out at the same time. One, that he'd be very open to going to Golden State and teaming with Steph Curry. There was another one that he would be open to a long-term extension with Miami. There have been these rumors circulating that he's interested in the Knicks. And at the same time as that one was coming out, there was a rumor that the Knicks might try to trade Mikal Bridges for Drew Holiday and then try to move Karl Anthony Towns as part of the package for Giannis, which seems insane. And talk about going from, we think that we're going to run the Eastern Conference without having to deal with Jason Tatum on the Celtics. We're going to run the conference. It hasn't worked out. The Knicks are panicking. They blow the whole thing up just to go get Giannis, who ruled himself out for 4 to 6 weeks with another calf issue. I don't know. Good luck to them. That seems insane. Nick Abe here says, I see Giannis to the Warriors. The thing that's interesting there, you're talking about potentially 4 first-round picks that could go from Golden State to Milwaukee. And if Milwaukee's going to trade Giannis, they're not dumb. I don't see a scenario where they would be like, yeah, we'll take Karl Anthony Towns, who's soft as baby poop. I don't see that, right? So they're probably going to look for picks and assets. If Golden State gave you 4 first-round picks, you make that move. And here's the other thing. Some of those first-round picks are going to be in the future, right? If you're Golden State. Steph Curry doesn't have that many years left. Giannis is racking up the injuries, and he's 31. Some of those picks could be massively valuable. It's not as if Golden State is setting up for long-term success. They're trying to kind of push all the chips in right now. it would be a shame. Jimmy Butler would have to go back contractually, right? Like just to make the numbers work. It'd be a bummer for him because it seems like Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry were kind of locked in on riding this one out together. I like Jimmy Butler. I like Steph Curry. Yeah, it would be kind of a bummer to see it happen, but we shall see. Let's see. Amadeo says, I still don't get how Giannis and Embiid would coexist on the floor together. I don't think they would. I think you would see those guys end up in a lot of the same places on the floor. Obviously, Giannis is a more athletically gifted guy at this point, but I don't see the spacing working at all. And listen, maybe it's just being high on like, we're not far removed from a 32-point game out of Paul George. But like to me, Paul George fits this team really well at that position as a third or fourth option than like trying to wedge Giannis in there and try to figure out the shots between him and Embiid and Maxey without Edgecombe around, without Paul George around. Like I think you actively do become potentially a worse team by making that move for Giannis. And certainly it kills a lot of that future post-Embiid potential. So I wouldn't do it. I really wouldn't. I think that the Sixers are better off riding with what they got. Embiid was quoted post-game as saying he knows that they've been kind of like ducking the luxury tax. He hopes that they go all in because he thinks they have a shot. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't know. I will maintain some hope that the Sixers are for real. We will see. Now, we're going to end on positivity. We started with the Flyers. Flyers are negative. We talked about the Sixers, who, by the way, nice win over the Kings. I said this earlier in the show, but like, the Sixers got hell of a good performance out of both Embiid and Maxey, including the layup off the glass before time expired. It was an and one. Maxey intentionally missed the free throw, which I thought was kind of weird. Paul George apparently told him to miss it. Embiid said, don't miss it. And then he missed it. And then Embiid went up to a postgame and said, don't ever do that again. Thought that was interesting. But like Maxey, 40 points, 8 assists, 4 rebounds. Hell of a game out of him. Embiid, as we know, continuing this like 30-plus point stretch. I think it's 6 out of his last 7 games. He's got at least 30 points. 37 points on the night, 8 assists, 5 rebounds. He had, a block and a steal in the game as well. Strong performance out of him. Paul George chipped in with 15 points of his own, shot 1 for 4 from beyond the arc, 7 to 15 overall, had 5 assists. You go, hey, Paul George, third option. Not a bad thing, especially when Maxey and Embiid are carrying the scoring load the way that they did. There again, Paul George doing exactly what's expected of him. Awesome stuff. Good job for the Sixers. Am I concerned that despite the fact that those two had incredible games, they only won by 2 points and it took a last-second layup on a set play, inbound play to get the job done? Yes, I do find that concerning. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not saying they're going to win the NBA championship. I'm just happy to see that they're winning some games and their best players are playing like their best players. We'll see if it continues or not. All right, now I want to get to the last thing. Last thing is what happened with the Eagles, and it's good stuff. So the Eagles went out, and they finally got their offensive coordinator. We saw Brian Daboll decide not to continue, apparently. Mike McDaniel decided not to continue, apparently. We saw Declan Doyle withdraw from the running. We saw some NFL pundits out there saying, well, guys now say that they're withdrawing from consideration because they believe that they have no shot of getting the job. Maybe that's true. But I'm going to go out to some of the pundits because, again, like I said at the top of the show, I couldn't tell you Jack Diddley squat about what Sean Mannion has had to do with Green Bay's offense. So I defer to the media people who cover the league, and I defer to the people who have been in those rooms and know what to expect of the guy. And so really quickly, we're going to go out to some quotes, and then I got something from Nick Foles that will probably give you quite a bit of excitement before you head into the weekend. So here's Peter Schrager tweeted about Sean Mannion, said, I've texted with numerous Green Bay colleagues and several former coaches of Mannion's in the last few hours. Everyone speaks glowingly. Quote, super smart, great teacher, collaborative, and A-plus human. And then Schrager also says that Philly gets him now before he's on everyone's radar next year. That's the thing, too, right? Like, you run the risk that if you don't go after a guy, he could be on not just an offensive coordinator radar, but maybe even a head coaching radar. Now, he's only 33. He's only got 2 years of coaching experience. The question then became, oh my God, are they really going to have Nick Sirianni call the plays? Remember, Adam Schefter the other day came out and said, don't be surprised. If the Eagles can't find a guy they like for offensive coordinator, they could just hand the play calling responsibilities off to Nick Sirianni. We all did a collective, oh my God, worst case scenario coming to life. When Mannion got hired, there was a little bit of conflicting reporting about, is he going to call the plays or not? Because he doesn't have the experience calling the plays. Then I think it was Jeff McClain got a quote that, yes, Mannion will call the plays. And then there were still some who were like, all right, yeah, cool, he's calling the plays, but clearly there's going to be a big Sirianni influence on the offense. But then the Eagles followed it up with another hire. And they went out and they got Josh Grizzard, who coached most recently for Tampa Bay and was their former offensive coordinator and was a passing game coordinator. And so you start to think about, is it a good hire? Is it a good thought? Is it going to pay dividends for this team? And Ross Tucker did a whole thing about Mannion on Twitter, and then he also had a thing that he kind of put out about Grizzard as well. But this is a thing that I thought was kind of a standout in what he had to say over on Twitter. He said, not doing a separate video, but I absolutely love that the Eagles got Grizzard also. They hired 2 of their top 4 offensive coordinator candidates, and Grizzard can help Mannion with lessons learned as a first-time play caller last year. So that's good stuff. And then you put together this. You have 2 guys who've worked with 2 of the most highly regarded quarterbacks in the NFC the last few years, in Jordan Love and Baker Mayfield. I tend to think that's a good sign. And in the case of Grizzard, you have a guy who has called games, has called plays, has been an offensive coordinator, and now he's sitting behind Mannion. Now, there is a thought process here. Well, if the Eagles got in a year early on Mannion before he got on everybody's radar, is it possible that next year Mannion could maybe get a look for head coaches if the Eagles offense rebounds in a big way? Yes. Is hiring Grizzard a pretty good way to like insulate that? All right, if you have to do the 1-year turnover again, an offensive coordinator, is it good to have somebody who's already there, who already understands the offense, who already understands how to optimize these players? The answer is yes. So there's good stuff there. Now, where are we at? Ford says, I like the hire for offensive coordinator and I like the QB coach, but I'm angry that they didn't do that this past friggin' season. Yes, it would be great. Nick Abe says, if he's amazing, fire Nick and promote the guy. I mean, listen, you do have one guy who's got OC experience. You have another guy who's being widely regarded as somebody who could be a fast climber. And that takes me to Nick Foles, because Nick Foles went on to a podcast and Nick Foles had some really positive things to say about his time around Sean Mannion. And as we all hold what Nick Foles has to say in such high regard and such high esteem, I figured this is a pretty good way for us to go into the weekend. We're going to bring up Nick Foles right now. Here are his thoughts on Mannion and what the Eagles are getting from their new offensive coordinator.
So you have a little bit of history with him.
I do. He, very impressive rookie. One of the more impressive rookies I've ever been around. You could tell right away with his work ethic, his knowledge of football at that point. And honestly, he always, I don't know if he liked it when I said it, but it seemed like he had a photographic memory with his ability just to recall things. Either that or he just constantly was, studying, prepping, flash.
If he's got photographic memory, are we going to start seeing Sean McVay-esque videos? Do I have to call Adam Lefkoe to have him meet with Mannion and have him break down every play that he's ever called at every level? Maybe.
Cards, whatever it may be, but you could tell he was really diligent and then, got into the coaching world the last couple of years. And you knew he'd always be a guy that would climb the ladder, but I feel like he's climbing it quicker than I thought. And with the Philadelphia Eagles, which we just did a podcast earlier today, talking about who they should go with. So a unique hire.
I mean, so you have a little bit of history.
There you go. I take what Nick Foles has to say with quite a bit of gravity. I think it's a good sign. He's highly regarded. Schrager has the sources about it. Ross Tucker raved about it. And this is the last thing I want to end on. So I said to you before, I haven't done some kind of amazing statistical breakdown of what Mannion did with Green Bay, what Grizzard did with the Bucks. But I do think that this maybe gives us an idea of what to look for next season and whether or not the offense truly belongs to Nick Sirianni or if the offense looks more like what the guys they've hired to kind of overhaul it look like. So we're going to go out to this really quickly. This is just a nice little graphic that was put together. I saw it floating around over on Twitter. Let me see. Can I give credit to where credit is due? It was it Dennis or Denise Selman put this out? I don't know if this is the person who put it together. Oh no, yeah, it is. Right there on the bottom of the graph, right there. Pew, pew, pew. Down here, compiled by this person over on social. Just looking at some basic metrics here. Obviously, we know that last year the Eagles ran out of shotgun at like an unbelievable rate, right? It was almost like they were allergic to having Hurts line up under center. You can see that last year the Eagles ran out of shotgun 71% of the time. The NFL average was 61%. Look at Green Bay. They only ran out of shotgun 57% of the time, under center 37% of the time. You look over at what Tampa Bay did, 61% in shotgun, 35% under center, which would make you believe that there is a non-zero chance that under center snaps are going to go up next year with Jalen Hurts at quarterback, you would think. Pass percentage when under center versus in shotgun, you could see those numbers as well. Along with the rankings, the bolded numbers next to it is where they ranked in the NFL. Pass percentage of like the number of pass plays called when under center, third highest in the league with Mannion and Green Bay. Look at play action. There was something else on here. I thought that the distribution of passes was also kind of interesting. In Green Bay, they utilize the running back just a little bit more, largely similar across the board there as well. But I want to highlight down here. Let me see if I can, right in here, the hitch percentage, right? Because we all know, big running joke, the Eagles ran more hitches than anyone else. The Eagles ran more hitches in the postseason than I think just about any other team in multiple games this postseason. NFL average of hitch percentage routes, 15%. The Eagles were number one in the league at 24%. Green Bay, 27th in the league at 13%. Tampa Bay, 16th in the league at 15%. Listen, I don't expect a lot. I am not totally out of my mind. But even if you look at crossers, right? Like there should be a fundamental difference in how this offense looks next year versus this year. If we get a lot more of the same next year, it will indicate that there is practically no chance whatsoever that Nick Sirianni has let the reins go. Okay? We will see. I mean, we're going to find out pretty quickly. And I just saw in the comments that Declan Doyle landed with the Ravens. Is that correct? Yes. Declan Doyle left Chicago to go be Baltimore's offensive coordinator, which is very interesting because remember, he pulled himself out of contention for the Eagles job. That'll kind of be an ultimate like he said, she said thing. Did Doyle pull out of contention because he knew he wasn't going to get the job, or did he pull out because he didn't want the job? I don't know. Very interesting. Anyway, I, for one, am happy to see that the Eagles are going outside the box with their hire. They've gone outside of the organization with two offensive hires. It also makes me think, and Nick Abe is on the same wavelength, it makes me think that there is a chance that the A.J. Brown situation is salvageable. I think last year a lot of the frustration was A.J. knew right away this offensive scheme was garbaggio. He knew it all season. It wasn't going to work. The way that things seemed to end at the end of the season with him and Hurts, where it felt like they were maybe in lockstep together, they were much more aligned with their thinking, makes me want to believe that A.J. Brown will be back next year and we will get to see what happens. Ford also had that to say, so thank you, Ford. And many blessings to you and your family and your loved ones and everyone else. Okay. Now, I think that's time to go. I think that's it. I think I'm good. So big thank you to everybody who tuned in today on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Big thank you to all of you who listen in the podcast feed after the fact over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. Do me a favor if you haven't done so already, like the video, share the video, subscribe. We gave the little warning when we were 3 subscribers away from 1,900. We are now at 1,902, which means we have gone over that 1,900 subscriber threshold. Many blessings. Thank you so much. I will not be at the Flyers game for Press Row Show on Saturday. There will be a Press Row Show. Ant and Bundy and intern Andrew. I got a kid's birthday party to go to. My kid. He's got a birthday party tomorrow. My kid, more important than going to watch Flyers Kings. No offense to the Flyers. I'm sure they're going to have a great game. I will, however, be back at the Xfinity Mobile Arena on Sunday for the Flyers Carnival. I think we're starting that show at 11 o'clock. I think it's going to run until 2. We've got a pretty star-studded lineup. And I've actually made it pretty well known. I plan to be roving throughout the arena during the carnival on Sunday. So if you see a guy walking around with a tripod or with a selfie stick or with 2 little microphones interviewing fans and maybe some players and some other people around the arena, that's probably little old me. Come say hi. We'll talk some puck. We'll have a nice time at the Flyers Carnival. Tickets are available over on flyerscharities.com, if I remember correctly. So it's a great experience. If you haven't been there before, if you have kids, certainly should go to the Flyers Carnival. You go there, you enjoy yourself. I think there are still some sign-up spots available to do different activities with players, like different games and such. I'd highly recommend going down. It's a lot of fun. It is absolutely worth the time. So until Monday, this has been the Russ Joy Show, and I've been Russ Joy, but you knew that already because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. Talk to each and every one of you Monday here on the Russ Joy Show. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye now.